All right, good morning, everybody. This webinar is around Argano Data Insights, and the webinar we affectionately named "Are You Drowning in Data and Thirsting for Knowledge?" As all too often organizations are. So just to get things kicked off, we'll do a couple of introductions here for your two presenters. Sorry, guys, was I muted?
No, I hear you, Jeremy.
Okay, so I'm Jeremy Kinger. I'm a Director of Strategic Engagements with a primary focus around data analytics. I've been dealing with business intelligence and data analytics and real-time data acquisitions for over 20 years, starting off in the energy business, working for Shell Oil Company, and working my way through the partner channel in later years. And here I am at Arbella as a DSE. Our co-presenter today is Christopher Smolsky.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Chris Smolsky. I'm the Director of Delivery for the Business Intelligence and Analytics practice here at Arbella. I also have numerous years of experience in business intelligence and data. I come from an operational background as well as a business intelligence and data architecture background. And I actually got my start working with data and analytics in the United States Air Force.
All right, thanks, Chris. A little bit about Arbella, in case anybody on the phone isn't too familiar with what we do. We are a Microsoft partner, a gold certified partner around 5 practices: ERP, CRM field services, my preferred one, BI and analytics, as well as Azure and change management. And we're looking to add a 6th Office 365 competency this year. We are within Microsoft's inner circle for 2019 and 2020, which puts us in the top 5% of Microsoft partners. And we like to think of ourselves as a very broad and diverse company, a right-sized company, I like to think. We have 160 plus resources. We're in 7 countries, such as the US. Well, we have 7 offices: US, Canada, UK, and several others. And we have 4 products, and the one we'll be focusing on today is our Arbella Data Insights product. So enough about this. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're actually going to be covering today, because we've got quite a bit of material to talk about. So our agenda, what we'll talk about today is, why did we do it? Why did we develop Arbella Data Insights? It's always a huge risk to actually go out and invest money in developing a product. So I would like to explain a little bit about the needs we saw in the market and why we did it. And then I'll go into what ADI is. What are some of the details about it? What are you getting? Obviously, with just saying Arbella Data Insights is one thing, but let's get into a little more technical details about exactly what that is when you get it. And then we'll let Chris take over and discuss the ADI architecture, as well as how that fits into Microsoft's roadmap for Dynamics, as well as Azure, as well as their data analytics platform. And finally, for the good part of it, we'll demo some of the built-in reports we have and show you some of the insights that can be gained from using Arbella Data Insights. So why did we do it? Well, first thing, if you've been in many organizations, particularly organizations that are lower in the maturity scale, you'll understand that reporting's hard. Half your time is spent going and digging up data somewhere and figuring out where you're going to get that next piece of data to build a report. Which is why I like to think of it as this iceberg here. So your data visualization, the actual report, is just the tip of that iceberg. Everything that lies beneath the surface, all those pieces that sink the Titanic, are down there that most of the companies that we go into are struggling with. Things like data governance and quality, master data, data movement, system integration, business terms and definitions. Those are things that companies haven't really tackled that much. So you end up with a company being ran off of many different spreadsheets, many different versions of the truth, and your key decision makers are spending most of their time trying to prepare data before they can analyze it. And that's when we saw a gap in the market. We saw that companies could run better, smoother, and make better decisions if they spent less of their time focusing on where I'm getting that data, and more of their time focusing on the insights they're getting from the data. And that's why we developed the Arbella Data Insights product. So a lot of people have probably seen this. This is the analytics journey, and this has been around in several forms through the years, but it basically shows how the analytics journey occurs for companies. Down here, management reports system, this is pretty much, pure chaos. It's right at the beginning. As you move up the scale, you get into what we call spread marts. That's when your organization starts running off of these spreadsheets. And it's better than just management reports, because at this point, people have some of the data they need. It's just there's a consistency problem. There's so much time spent preparing those spread marts, but at least you have something there. And that big gulf, that gap you have to jump, happens between these two levels right here, this spread mart level moving to this data mart. And that jump is what we help empower our users to do, as well as, moving forward in the future, also going down to the enterprise data warehouse, all the way to, the driving decisions based off of your information. So the hardest part of jumping this gulf is you've got individuals who have these spread marts, and they don't know how to take that next step. Most companies don't know how to go in and develop that data mart, and that's what ADI does. It is that pre-built data mart to get organizations off of those spreadsheets and get that single version of the truth. And we call it data mart at that point because it's a departmental level data warehouse, essentially. And as you move over to a data warehouse, then you go into a division, then you go into an enterprise. And it's that iterative approach. Let's start with one department, get rid of those spreadsheets, hammer down what the business definitions are, what the business processes are, and ensure we have those represented for that department, and then move to the next one, to a division, and to that enterprise data warehouse down the road. So what is ADI and how does it help you get there? Well, first thing is ADI is a pre-built data warehouse. So Arbella has a deep industry knowledge as well as a deep knowledge around Microsoft Dynamics. So we know what data companies are using. We know what data to pull out of Dynamics that companies don't quite have those insights into, such as, sales, inventory, those kind of things. Sure, you get those operational reports in Dynamics, but you don't get those higher level value metrics, and that's what ADI is able to provide you. We have used industry best practices designing these data models that are within this data warehouse. We're using Kimball Star schema methodology, which is it's been around for almost 40 years now, and it is a way to build a database that is a high performance reporting database, i.e. it's optimized for reporting and analytics rather than something like the Dynamics 365 backend, which is optimized for individual users transacting and entering data there. We built it entirely on Microsoft Azure for a couple of reasons. A lot of our customers don't have dedicated IT departments. So building it on Azure, you don't have to deal with the support and maintenance and patching servers and that kind of stuff. So it lowers the infrastructure and maintenance cost, as well as it fits into Microsoft's roadmap. It's no secret that Microsoft believes that the cloud is the future. So we believe that all of our products we put out should be in the cloud. The nice thing about ADI, and where once you get that enterprise data warehouse for your Dynamics data, this is not a black box. We future-proofed it in the sense that you're allowed to expand it. You can see the code yourself and bring in data from other systems. If you have other platform as a service systems, or if you have Salesforce CRM instead of Dynamics 365, you can still bring that data in. It's still an open enterprise data warehouse there. So it allows that integration of other data sources, including legacy systems and historical data, which is a nice feature for those of you who are upgrading from, say, AX 2012 to Dynamics 365 F&O. You don't have to throw away your historical transactions, and you don't have to go through a nightmare of a practice of trying to migrate your historical transactions into D365. Instead, you can migrate those into your ADI warehouse and then point the ADI warehouse to start getting data from D365 after you migrate to that system. The nice thing about all of this is it gets you back to focusing on data analysis and improving your business operations rather than focusing on where you're going to get the next piece of data. So we built ADI around functional business areas, and these are the areas right here. So starting at the left, we cover sales and marketing. And this is all the way from sales from a Dynamics 365 CRM, your campaigns, leads, opportunities, all the way down to your packing slips in your ERP system. So from soup to nuts, you've got sales covered from a source to destination. The second area is finance. We pull in the general journal and all the accounts. We pull in AP, vendor transactions, accounts receivable, all the customer transactions, as well as some fixed asset transactions for you to report on. And the nice thing about this is, unlike some other systems, we pull this stuff in and you're able to view this data at 1,000-foot level. So you get your executive dashboard. How is my company trending? How is it doing? But since we store the data in ADI at the lowest transactional level, you can actually see individual sales lines. You can actually see individual invoice lines in these. So you can drill down from that 1,000-foot level all the way down to the individual transactions, which we find is a huge help, and you're not abandoned there at that high level. The next area is procurement. So purchase requisition, lines and workflow approval, purchase order lines, invoice transactions down to that lowest level, as well as packing slip transactions. Then we cover inventory, and we handle inventory transactions with linkages to sales, procurement, and manufacturing, as well as that on-hand inventory summary. Give me that daily snapshot of what I have in there. And we also have visualizations in a data model built around your master planning transaction. So if you're using MRP, if you're a manufacturer or someone using MRP, you can actually gain additional insights. Is one of the main complaints we've heard from users is MRP is great, but the visualization of the data once it's done was found lacking. So we built out some better visualizations around that, and ability to slice and dice things a little better. Manufacturing and production, we built out production costing, bill of materials, production output. So we have a full suite of manufacturing and production data models there. And then one that's near and dear to our heart as Arbella, we are a project-based company. And we're also a company that eats our own dog food. We use Dynamics 365 F&O for our business operations, and we use the projects module extensively. So we've got reports and we've got a data model, as well as these analytics built around timesheet transactions, project invoice transactions, project employee transactions. So we've got a full suite of those built out as well. And then finally, customer experience and field services. If you want to track your cases and queues, or if you want to track incidents or activities in the field, we have data models built around those Dynamics 365 products also. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview, that 1,000-foot view of what ADI is, before we get into the real architectural view that I hand over to Chris. So on this diagram, you can see starting over here on the left, we have our data sources. And as I said earlier, we built ADI around Dynamics 365 and Dynamics AX. So we have models we can source from AX 2009 all the way to Dynamics 365 F&O, as well as the Dynamics 365 CE and sales products. Now, we can also source from other systems. Anything that we can connect to, or if you can dump it to a CSV file, if it's something we can't connect to, we can pull that data in. So whether it be an Excel spreadsheet, or whether it be Salesforce or something like that you have out there as a software as a service, we can pull that in as well. And what we do is we pull that into a data layer. So we land everything from these systems into a staging area on this Azure SQL Server. And from that staging area, it gets transformed into those star schema data models that I mentioned earlier. So all of that's residing on this Azure SQL Server box. And from there, you can either, if you use some third-party tools such as ClickView or Tableau, you could connect straight to that data warehouse and start consuming that data in those star schemas and start building those reports you needed. But if you're using Power BI, as we recommend our users use, if we built this optimized for Power BI, you would then build your semantic layer. You would build that Power BI data model and then use that, and then use that into your presentation layer. So that Power BI model, pushing out here and start building Power BI reports, dashboards in that presentation layer. You can also attach Excel onto these Power BI data models. So we haven't completely abandoned Excel. We've just centralized the data source, ensured that people using Excel are using this cleansed data source, this single version of the truth, and they can go in Excel and slice and dice that data, and it will update as your data updates in that Power BI model, because it's a live connection to that. And further down the path, as you build more data within your data warehouse, um, it makes a great platform to start using the Microsoft AI platform. Everybody knows these AI models need a lot of data to feed them. They need to train themselves to make better decisions. And so as you build more and more data within this data warehouse coming from more and more sources, that becomes a great, rich data source for that Microsoft AI platform. So when you guys really want to take it to that next level for predictive and prescriptive decisions rather than reactive decisions, that's when you can start integrating and going that next step to the AI platform. So what is ADI? It's this stuff within this box here. It's the movement of this data. It's these data models here. It's these Power BI models, and then these visualizations you have out here. So with that said, I am going to hand this over to Chris and let him get into some of the nuts and bolts of how things work in the background and a little bit more about what the ADI architecture is and how it aligns with the Microsoft roadmap. Chris?
Thanks, Jeremy. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the technical side of how we actually built this, but we're going to first start with a little bit of where Microsoft's roadmap is going for where D365 Finance and Operations is going. And this is a slide from the most recent user group summit that we had out in Orlando that was presented to show where the roadmap was going to be able to start taking advantage of data lake technologies. And this is, still a little bit down the line. We don't have a direct release date yet for when this technology will be available for us, but this is going to actually change some of the capabilities that we within the Dynamics community will have to be able to get data out of our ERP systems. And this is really one of the key pieces in what would be termed as the modern data warehouse architecture. And we saw that this was coming within the Microsoft roadmap. So as we get into how we built ADI and why we chose platform as a service offerings, you'll start to see that alignment with this modern data warehouse architecture so that we can begin that modernization effort. So again, not only are we trying to help you jump over that gulf, as Jeremy said, within the analytics journey, going from spreadsheets into that first generation data warehouse that can grow to be an enterprise data warehouse. We're also looking towards the future so that you can take advantage of some of these big data technologies such as Azure Data Lake Storage, Spark, and Azure Machine Learning, and all of these more advanced ways of being able to do analytics. This technology in general is going to give us a capability once Microsoft releases it to extract our data out of D365 F&O and land that into a data lake. And the concept of a data lake, I think, is often misunderstood. It's actually most simply put as it's a giant hard drive in the sky. This is going to be a way for us to be able to store massive amounts of data in a cost-effective manner that will be able to be structured along those business processes. So this sounds very similar to a data lake or to a database, but the piece that's missing here is an ability to really easily query. While we will have a capability to be able to connect Power BI to this through data flows, there's still work that would need to be done to be able to ingest that and bring that into the same model. So we believe that still this ability to transform into these predefined data models is going to have a huge amount of benefit. So Jeremy, go ahead and let's click to the next slide here. We'll take a look at what the modernization platform kind of looks like. These are the different technologies, and again, I don't want to necessarily delve too much into what each one of these different boxes is for. What I would like you to pay attention to is this kind of process flow from going from the ingestion of data to the storage of data into the preparation and training of data models. This is our traditional ETL step, right, that we often talk about: extract, transform, and load. We've kind of rebranded this as being, I'm going to prepare data in general to be ready for analytics. And then lastly, that component of modeling and serving that data. And as we go into the next slide and you see, we've designed ADI to follow the same conceptual pipeline flow for how we've created the components that run Arbella Data Insights. And we've done this to create a loosely coupled architecture so that as you begin that modernization effort, as we start to get further down that maturity scale, it's not going to be a large investment to be able to move and adopt some of these newer technologies. So, one of the things, as Jeremy talked through in the section about why did we build ADI, the commonly accepted kind of process for developing a data warehouse, if you were to do this from scratch, we often hear Gartner talk about this taking somewhere between 18 to 24 months to be able to do the business analysis, to creating that data infrastructure, to be able to do the technology selection, and then modeling that data before you can even really build your first report. We've invested thousands of hours in developing this architecture and developing this data model to help accelerate you to be able to cut that time from 2 years potentially down to a matter of hours to install. So again, we can get back to the piece that you really care about, which is focusing on those reports, focusing on those analytics to be able to continue down your journey. As we look through this slide, we come back to the architecture a little bit. The first box that I want to draw your attention to is this ingest slide section. If you're on AX 2012 today, you're most likely running on-prem with a SQL server. We leverage a set of Data Factory scripts. Data Factory is a platform as a service technology that allows for the easy movement of data from on-prem into the cloud. And this allows us to easily ingest that data from your tables and be able to store and stage that within a Azure SQL database instance. If you're coming from a cloud service, today that data gets pushed to us, right? So we're leveraging in D365 F&O, we're leveraging the bring your own database export option. In the future, we'll leverage the technology to allow us to leverage this off of the data lake. But what we do from there is we begin that prep step, right? This is where we prepare that data to be able to be modeled and be able to be included into that Kimball design star schema. This preparation step is again leveraging Azure Data Factory. This is a intuitive low-code to no-code interface that allows us to be able to change that data from the thousands of broken apart tables that drive that ERP system into the fewer, smaller star schema style tables that are going to drive your reports in the future. Today, this technology is very accessible. Again, we really believe it's important that you have an ability to own this solution. So we've made it very accessible by making this ETL be as easily maintained and changeable by the customer once they've taken this. And so really the portion that runs this ETL here, 99% of it is just simple SQL. So if you have an analyst or you have an IT administrator that knows how to be able to write stored procedures and views and table definitions, this is certainly something that can go forward with. And from there, we bring that into our data model, where we craft those fact tables, those conformed dimensions. That conformed is just a nice way of saying that we can share those between those different fact tables. So we don't have to struggle at what the definition of a customer is. We have an ability to tie that together from accounts receivable into sales and into other elements of our data model and still have those same attributes. And then lastly, we serve that data primarily through Power BI data sets. And these data models are built so that we can, or these data sets are built so that we can easily combine other different fact groups, but as well, we have one central place where your analysts, where your business is going to go and look for that data to come off of, so that you have trust within your data again and have that one centralized version of the truth. Coming back again to why did we choose platform as a service? We don't want you to have to be in the business of having to maintain heavy IT infrastructures. All of these systems are platform as a service that you see within here, and they're all low code to no code. You don't have to worry about patching for security. You don't have to worry about SQL Server 2008 no longer being supported. All of these services are always upgraded, and they're available within high availability and redundant without really the need to do heavy administration over the top of them. This really, I think, unlocks that capability to, again, get back to focusing on what your business does. Let's focus on those business processes. Let's focus on finding those insights that are going to build and transform your business for tomorrow. Jeremy? Okay, we'll talk a little bit about how we leverage ADI for historical migrations. Jeremy had talked about how we believe this is a great way to be able to accelerate moving from a legacy ERP system into something like D365 F&O. Often during those types of implementations, you're going to have to make the choice as to how much of your history do you pull in. Do we pull in 3 years or 5 years of GL transactions? Do we pull in all sales lines, or do we pull in only the open ones? And we believe that we can help make that an easier migration by focusing on your master data items, those things like your customer list and your vendor list and your chart of accounts and open balances and things like that, and allow that history to come into a data warehouse where it can easily reside right next to your new ERP system. So we believe not only this does help accelerate your capabilities in doing that implementation in a more cost-effective and quicker manner, but it also gives you that continuity of business, because now we can ingest those AX 2012 tables. We'll bring them through that same prepare step that we're going to bring the D365 data through, and we'll allow that to sit within the semantic layer to be unioned together within that data model so that we can see sales transactions that began in this example within AX 2012, and perhaps packing and shipping was actually accomplished within D365. Still giving you that single pane of glass, that one version of the truth, and retaining your business's history. Go ahead, Jeremy. So talk a little bit about our approach. We really, when we get started with helping you on this journey of hopping over that gulf, we start with an analytics maturity assessment. And really that is looking at those different systems that you have in place and looking at the different governance challenges that you have, and helping advise you to be able to create not only a data warehouse for the future, but also a strategy for the future. And we believe that building on this foundational database system to be able to get to that one version of the truth is going to unlock new business capabilities for you. We often talk about the concept of digital transformation and being able to drive your business with that new technology to be able to make better business decisions and be able to find new opportunities. And we believe that this approach in general helps us make our customers successful in that. And with at the core of this is the use of our Bella Data Insights to be able to, again, kind of cut to the quick and not be able to spend so much time having to worry about the crafting of that first generation data warehouse, but being able to jump that gap and be able to get into, again, focusing on the business and focusing on those new outcomes that we want to drive towards. Jeremy, back to you.
All right, so now let's take a look at what some of these insights look like. We're going to go into Power BI and go ahead and walk you through some of these things. So within Power BI, I'll start from the beginning here. We've built what's called an application. So one of the ways you can distribute some of these reports within Power BI, there's several ways. There's things called application workspaces, and these are areas where people go that have dashboards, reports, workbooks, data sets, and more. One of the nice things in these workspaces is you can share these data sets and people can create new reports based off of these data sets. So you don't have to be a person who's a Power BI designer. You've got these vetted data sets already out there, and they can go in and start building their reports. Now, if you want to lock down things a little bit, once you've designed those reports and developed them and want to push them out there to your organization in a read-only capacity, granted, people will still be able to slice and dice the data in there, but they will not be able to modify the report, such as adding new visualizations or deleting anything from it. You bundle the different objects you've created into what's called an application. And here's a couple of apps we have here. So I'm going to go into the ADI 365 demo app. And you'll see we have a navigation bar over here on the right side. Sales orders, procurement, production, finance, as well as ADI and Metadata Explorer. And each of those takes us to different reports. So I'm going to start here at the top for sales order insights. And you'll notice I've got that 1,000-foot view of data. I've got my cards here, my net amount of sales, my customers, sales orders by month, customer groups broken down by product groups. So all of these are different dimensions that we're able to slice that factual sales data by. So customer group is a dimensional attribute, product group is a dimensional attribute. Here's our top 5 customers, our top products. One of the neat things about this top 5 customers one is the title here is actually dynamic. You'll see there's actually some insights within the title of this visualization. Top 5 customers make up 54% of all orders selected. So that's a nice little way, just adding a little more information to that visualization. Now you'll notice over here, this is going for this year. And this is what's called a relative date slicer. It is a function in Power BI that you have when you have a date dimension within your data model. And all of our data models that we build have a common date dimension. So you unleash these relative date functions. So if I wanted to look at last year's data, instead of having to build a whole new report, I can just say, let's look at last 1 year's of data. And everything changes, and now I'm looking at last year's data. If I wanted to change this to months, let's say I want to look at the last 6 months of data. Boom, right there, I changed the last 6 months. So it's a really powerful feature just to go in and be able to slice and dice this data a little bit more and start really grinding down on that data. You also have what's called a filter pane over here. So anything that's been added to the filter pane, let's say I want to filter by invoice sales status. Now I've got everything for the last 6 months that is in an invoiced sales status. So it's really powerful just to be able to come in here and slice and dice this. You don't have to be a report author to do this. This is just a read-only version of this report. So the 1,000-foot view is nice, but some people within your organization require a detailed level view. And that's where we have the ability to drill through into more detailed level things. So I told you we carry data down to the individual transaction level. So on our sales order insights, I can say, okay, show me which orders this customer has. So I'm going to drill through on this and go to my sales order detail, which is another report in the suite. And this takes us down to individual sales lines. So for this customer, Aaron Shan, you can see it's over in the filter pane since I drilled through on Aaron. I've got every transaction for that time period, those year to date. And I can actually see what makes up those numbers that were making up that big bar on the first page. So I can really drill down and get those additional insights there. Now, procurement. We all like to deal with procurement and analyze procurement and drive down costs and expenses and that nature, see who's delivering on time and stuff like that. So we have a procurement analysis. We're measuring our on time percent over time here, month by month, as well as amount received. So if you look on my axis over here, there's a dollar figure here, and that's for the blue bar, and over here is a percentage for the yellow on time percent line. We've got things split down by vendor group. So total spend by vendor group. This was a manufacturing company, so clearly they're spending a lot of their money on production, raw materials and stuff like that. And once again, we have this relative date slicer. So this is this year's view of the data. And we have that on time goal percent, 85.1% there. So that high level view. And then some different vendor analysis here. So this is vendors sorted by $ ordered. So this is our top vendors at the top, and scroll down to vendors that we don't use nearly as much as you go down to less dollar amounts. If you wanted to change that to, like, say, quantity ordered, these are simple sorting functions, very similar to Excel. Now I've sorted it by quantity ordered. And so you see I've got my quantity in a descending pattern there. If you want to drill down on things, see what makes up some of these numbers, you'll look when I hover over this, a tooltip says right click to drill through. And that's how you know there's a drill through available. If I hover over here, I don't have a drill through on this visualization. So let's drill through on May 2019. And look, I've got 3 different reports I can drill through to. Low balance purchase orders, spend by category, as well as procurement analysis old, which is an older one that needs to be pulled out. So let's go to low balance purchase orders. These are probably important because they have a low balance, so we might want to, do something with them. You can always go back to your procurement analysis and drill through to something else, may as well. And let's say I want to drill through to my spend by category. And here I've got details. So I've got category, subcategory, subcategory 1 and 2. So there's a hierarchy there of my categories. This one, when I created it, I had a little bit of fun with visualizations. They can get busy at times, but I wanted to show a couple of neat visualizations you have here. And this one is called a tree visualization. So it starts with the biggest ones. So late amount received. So this is how much late amount is received there. So vendor performance on these categories. And you can filter. Every one of these visualizations is tied in, and you can filter by those categories there. This one here is amount received by category. And usually when there's a lot of slicers, a pie chart or donut chart in this case is a horrible idea. But this is one of the, this is what they call the enhanced donut chart. And it's built by a third party. There's a marketplace out there that you can go and download different visualizations that third parties build. And this is a free one here. And so you have a lot of crowdsourced functionality in Power BI that you might not get in other visualization tools as people contribute to the ecosystem to build out these visualizations. So as you can see, we've got pie pieces and they start to get small over here. And if things get too small, it's just too many categories in a pie chart, it just become unusable. But what this one does, it groups the smaller slices into this other section here. And if you want to see what makes up that others section, that's 15.6% of our procurement, I can drill through, and now I've got, there's my previous 84.5, and now I've got these smaller slices. And there's even another drill through for 4.9% for others. And I can drill through and actually read some of these different accounts, even at that smallest level. And if I want to drill back out, I just click the previous a couple of times and I'm back out on top. So it's just a neat, fun visualization that I like to show, and it kind of shows how this ecosystem of everybody contributing to make Power BI a little bit better. Digging down a little bit, I'm going to go with production delivery insights. And Chris, if you want to talk to this one, it's your.
Sure thing.
Okay.
So this is showing some of our industry knowledge, right? One of the largest impacts to a manufacturer to being able to be successful is the ability to deliver both on time and for the correct quantity that needs to be delivered. So this is showing, again, kind of that 1,000-foot view towards all of the production activities that are going on. This is, the summation of that production. And what we're seeing here is within this definition, we've come up with for OTIF, for on-time delivery in full. And for this metric, we've defined that to be plus or minus 10% within the quantity, and then plus or minus within 3 days of the planned date for when that should be reported as finished. And what this gives us an ability is a great opportunity to do some kind of that traditional cross-pivot style analysis that you would traditionally get out of a pivot table, but to be able to really uncover some great insights to understand why, for example, my OTIF misses are starting to rise. And so, Jeremy, if you could click on that 16% within the OTIF trend down on the August there, we can, over to the right. Sorry, I don't have control of the mouse. Yep. We can start to see what those top products are that we're starting to miss on. And we can see up the top that those cards now have changed to be able to show the majority of our issues are within quantity misses. We're not missing due to the delivery date nearly as much as we are missing due to quantity. So we're having shortages. We can now take that same approach where we go from that 10,000-foot view to drill in to be able to see what is the impact, what is causing these production misses. Is it due to the fact that I have certain work centers within my production routes that are having issues, and so I'm having to have a lot more scrap brought in? Am I having shortages within raw materials, and so I can't produce the quantities that were planned? And really start to be able to get into making this something that we can drive and affect change within our operations. Perhaps we have issues within the BOM for some of these products that we need to reevaluate their formulas or something of that nature. So this report was really intended to be able to show off that capability of being able to start at a very high vision or high level process and simplify what is a very complicated analysis to typically be able to do, to be able to start to drive us to look into the right spot. back to you, Jeremy, if you want to step into finance.
Thank you. So in finance, got several reports here built around financial insights. One of them, I'll start at the top. We have a CFO dashboard. And as a CFO, I'm concerned with money. What is my liquidity? What is my debt ratios? And so we have those here on this dashboard. You can see we've got things broken down by month with different account balances, whether it be my total revenue, total gross margin, total expenses, assets, liabilities, equity, working capital, current ratio, as well as our quick ratio, all tied out here month by month for us. So just a nice, easy to display, get a state of where things are going a little bit. You can't quite trend with this because it is a chart, but CFOs have that analytical brain and they want to see numbers sometimes rather than just pretty pictures. So that's why we have a combination of these trending charts as well as some actual numbers on here to actually show the meat behind the sizzle up here. Additionally, we have our financial insights dashboard, and this is that state of the union. Where am I right now? A little bit of trending here. Have I met my goals? So it's a series of KPIs going here. So the top row is month to date versus last month to date, whether it be total revenue, total expenses, contribution, as well as cost of goods sold. The second line here is actually year to date versus last year to date. So you get that monthly performance view as well as what is my target on that year to date view. And then down here is your total contribution analysis month by month in a bar chart. A couple of nice ones, accounts receivable. Everybody loves it. Who owes me money, basically? And as you would expect with an AR report, you're going to have your typical aging buckets here. So my 30, 60, 90, 90 plus days. We also have our average collection period at the top. So there's that high level metric before I drill down on anything. That's a number that's probably important. Is that trending upwards or is it trending downward? Is my receivables department actually working good or are they working bad? So that number is one that you might want to watch over time. It may be one you want to trend over time as well. If you want to see what makes up some of these things, as I said, everything reacts to everything else. So I clicked on 1 to 30 days and you'll see it reacts and filters things down to 1 to 30 days. But we also have some drill through available on this. So if I hover over this, I can see, show me what makes up my 1 to 30 days. So I'll right mouse click and drill through to my AR details. And now I got it down to the customer invoice level. Who owes me money? What's open? What is my open balance for all of these different lines? So this is my hot list. Maybe I now have a list of customers I want to go and call. So I went from that high level, look, our collection period's high, we need to do something about it. So let's react to it. So now someone can drill down to that lower level and see, how do I react? Well, I need to call Alexandra Walker. They owe us $1.7 million there. So giving a few calls to them might be the quickest way to start shoving down those numbers and getting those accounts receivable pulled in. Accounts payable, as you might expect, looks very similar to accounts receivable. It's the same functionality here. We've changed the visualization up a little bit because we want to do it by vendor group. So these are AP by vendor group. We've got it broken down into those aging buckets. We've got our average payment periods. We're better at paying than we are receiving, obviously, because it's 30 days lower. So we pay on average 17.68 days. So that's a pretty good record there. Top vendors by amount due. This is one you might want to say, and look, why do we owe Greenlight $22,000? And we can drill through on that and actually see what makes up that $22,000. And here you've got it down, Greenlight, expediting, and you've got it down to the invoice, individual invoice numbers. Sorry, guys. So you've got it down to the actual individual invoice numbers. And you can see, here's those ones we're due. These are the ones we might want to action on and pay. So now we have a list of who we need to pay, what those invoice numbers are, and when the actual date was. So you go from, once again, you go from that high level, look, we need to action on this, and you're able to drill through and show that low level. Why do we have 34K 91 plus days overdue? Or what is it? And here's that low level of items that we need to action on. These are due items that make up that bucket. Finally, one of the ones that I like, and it's not really a report on your data, it's a report on your metadata. So it is metadata is data about data essentially. So this is the structure of ADI. And so we've built a Power BI report to kind of visualize what that structure looks like. So it's a big spaghetti diagram here, but this is the whole thing. And you can see we've got receivables here, sales invoice. So those yellow dots are fact tables, those factual numbers. When we talked about that star schema earlier, those factual numbers, it's got my sales line amount, it's got my sales order quantity, that kind of stuff. Anything you can quantify goes in those fact tables. And then these spokes out here, if you think of it as a wagon wheel, the spokes, the little blue dots out here are those dimensions. Document purchase dimension, item buyer group dimension. So those are the ways you can slice and dice that factual data. So if I want to drill down and make this a little more usable, let's take a look at sales. Let's take a look at sales. Sorry, double click there. So now this is a much more manageable model. You can see we've got sales delivery, sales line, and sales invoice are our 3 fact tables within this. And you can see these are what we call our conformed dimensions. So every dimension here that's shared between these facts, that's that conformed dimension. So I could slice something in the sales delivery table and the sales invoice table by customer because they share that common dimension. So that is a grain that you could actually get out of that. And if you want to know exactly what those common dimensions are, we have what's called a bus matrix here. So it's a little technical term, but it's quite simple when you really understand it. Here we have our list of dimension tables in our sales module, and here we have our 3 fact tables. If you want to see if a dimension table is related to a fact table, just look for a mark here. So bill of lading is related to sales delivery. It is not related to sales line or sales invoice. So when I'm slicing and dicing sales invoice data, I can't slice it by bill of lading. I know that because I looked here on my bus matrix. So this is nice for report writers, nice for your data analysts to come in and see in the ADI and see what relates to what. And that way, if the reports are giving odd results, i.e. I tried to slice sales delivery by employee and I just got weird, wild numbers, well, they can come in here and say, oh, there's no relationship there, so it's not going to slice properly. So it's a cool little report. It covers everything. If I just want to look at an individual fact table, well, what's related to my GL, I can filter on GL. And then you see that wagon wheel, that star schema appearing there. And these are your dimensions that are related to the GL. So that's how I can slice and dice that. So it's a nice little tool just to let you know what you can and can't do when you're actually starting to build reports yourselves rather than just using the included reports. With that said, that is the end of our visualization demo. And I'm going to go back to my slide deck real quick. So we put our customer list up here, and these are some of our ADI customers, just to show you it's not a hobby for us. We implement ADI a lot, and we've got a lot of people out there. And through the years we've had ADI, we've done a lot of learnings from these customers. The way different businesses, the way different industries do business that we've built into that ADI model. So you've got bioscience on here, you've got retail on here, you've got food services, construction, manufacturing, and we've learned a little bit and tweaked our ADI models to accommodate all of those different industries there. So it's been quite a journey, and it's a nice product these days that can accommodate many different industries. So finally, to close things out, we have an offer right now. So let us throw you a life vest if you're drowning in data to help you get started on your analytics roadmap. For the next 2 weeks, we're offering a 25% discount on an analytics maturity assessment. And what that is, that's a 2-day, typically on-site event where one of our industry experts goes in site, talks with different people within your organization, and puts together that analytics roadmap, seeing where you're at, assessing where you're at, assessing where you want to be, and putting together that plan and roadmap of how to get there. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to contact Arbella. I have our contact information here for both me and Chris Samolsky. We can both accommodate you. And this slide deck will be emailed out to everybody after the webinar.
And again, if you can't remember our names, you can simply email sales@arbellatech.com as well.
Or yeah, also info@arbellatech.com is a good way to reach a bunch of us. Thank you so much, Jeremy and Chris. I don't see any questions, but if you guys are, if you go ahead and ask any questions in the chat. If we don't have any, we'll go ahead and log off in a minute or two. But you guys did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, so I think I see a question here. One of the questions is, what is the first step of really getting started with ADI and business intelligence?
Chris, why don't you handle that one?
Sure. So typically our first step, again, is that roadmap. It's looking at which one of the business processes that's going to have the best value for you to be able to gain new insights into. Do we start with procurement? Do we start with finance? Do we start with sales? And we will come in, we'll install our Bella Data Insights inside your Azure tenant. We'll get that data extracted. Typically, that process only takes a few days to get that data into that data warehouse. And we can start visualizing that data within a few days to start seeing those different opportunities. Really, our process is to focus on where are you guys having struggles today? Where are those different opportunities? What's the number one challenge your business is facing today? Is it trying to drive down spend? Is it trying to find more opportunity? And again, that whole goal of that first phase is to be able to create those empowered knowledge users within your organization, kind of that democratization effort of data. So we will typically work with a team of subject matter experts within that first business area, kind of taking that data mart approach, and we start to grow from there so that you guys can start down that analytics pathway, being able to build on that foundation that we'll put in place with the installation of ADI.
Yeah, and just for clarification, when he starts talking about one business process, when we deploy ADI, we deploy all of the modules that you saw there that are applicable to your business or your product suite. The thing is, when Chris is mentioning building out, it's going in and say you're having trouble with procurement. Well, we'll go in and start analyzing your business and figuring out what are those metrics that are specific to your industry or your business that needs to be built out around procurement. So we'll focus on that, building out that one group and making it fit exactly to your business and the visualizations you need for that.
Great, thank you guys. I don't see any more questions, so I think we're good. Thank you guys so much again, and for everyone that joined and showed up today and listened to their presentation. We appreciate it. And the recording will be on our website as well as YouTube, and will be sent out to everyone that's registered.
Thanks, everybody.